We're back to talk about all things ball and play Captain's League. Our guest today has a magic hole where his pole should be. Let's talk blitzball. Welcome to the Blitzball Boys, the podcast about ball sports in the warehouse, but lately about ball in play. I'm your co-host, Brendan Ruppel, along with my fellow host, Peter Del Rey.
Hey, Brendan. We
We're
got
back.
our first two-time guest today.
Wow, that's some good history right there.
Second member of the Triple Handsome Club.
Oh, yes.
Chris was the first.
Let me get that. I think
We
the battery's
got
actually nearby.
Nate Hayes, Ref Nate. He's in the building.
Yo-ho.
Thanks, guys. I don't know whether to thank you after that intro, man. My God, that was an immediate low blow right there.
Literally,
I'm
yeah.
definitely, I'm wearing at least one cup to the next
You
Ball
have
Play
to.
League as the umpire.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
wondering,
just
is
to-
it, like how people's injuries sometimes they come back when it rains? Were you having that same effect when you were watching ball and play again, but not there? Were you getting that like I have this tingling sensation down there just watching these episodes?
Brendan.
I kind of regularly get some tingling sensations there, but
Interesting.
it's hard to distinguish.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, yeah. I mean, so we're here to talk about Captain's League ball and play.
In its entirety.
In its entirety. This is how we're gonna do. I guess get this business out of the way up top. We're going to do these Captain's Leagues kind of like this. We're gonna watch the whole chunk of it because they come out daily. Maybe have a guest at the end of each series, and we got a good one today.
Maybe. We got the best one today. The man who I think probably knows ball and play better than anybody minus Jimmy.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Because you helped make the rules, right?
Yes, I did, and Jimmy and I text fairly often about rule changes that he's got in mind. And I'll tell you what, he is so passionate about this particular format, this particular game, and I love it. He labs everything, he tests everything really, really well, and we just saw a great product.
So I guess then perfect intro into this. You helped with the rules and all that, and he, talked. How do you like the new rules, the new wicket behind the bowler, the new, if
bigger
you
magic
tip
hole.
the ball behind the wickets at the bowling end, that it's a 4, it's a boundary. The fact that there's now a line that the wicket keeper can't fully go over. I guess there was in ball and play 1.
There was a
but not
circle. There was a
this-
circle, yeah.
Yeah. This one's different. It's more like, hey, you could be anywhere. We saw it in the silly point. We saw it in a traditional wicketkeeper type role. And then, making the magic hole bigger. Which of these do you think worked better than you intended, and which of these were left a little bit to be desired?
Everything worked better than I thought. Jimmy had told me he had told me a while back about his intention to make the back wall a scoring area, and I wasn't sure about it at the time. But I think now watching this, it wasn't really targeted by anybody, but I think the cricketers might target it.
It just kind of happened accidentally, more so where other people might strategically use it on purpose.
Right. Exactly. It's become kind of like an accident, like a lucky thing.
Yeah.
Right now.
And a big
But I
momentum
think
swing too. And it's like you're like the other team thinks they have you. Nope, actually, it's
Right.
not. It's 4 runs.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like we saw that in the third place game. I think it come into play a couple of times. Was it the third place game? But yeah, I think I really like the rule changes. I think it was great to see this time because there weren't any cricketers involved. It was all, blitz ball people. It was all baseball-minded people. So to see how those rules were translated and utilized by baseball-minded people, it was really neat. I thought I really loved the innovations. I thought it was a better product than Ball and Play 1.
Yeah, and going off of that too, I loved seeing all these guys play again. Like you're saying, we didn't have the cricketers there. Not that was a bad thing, but it was nice to see these guys who had played once before and they're familiar with the sport now, and see how much they all progressed by being used to this warehouse and used to this strange game.
Absolutely, and also seeing their ability to umpire the games when it was their turn to umpire.
Yeah.
The value I had last year in Ball and Play 1 as the umpire was that Jimmy and I knew the rules better than anybody else did. So, and we obviously it was played on the fly. It was a brand new game, so we still had to consult each other. I had to consult him a few times about the intricacies of the rules. But seeing the way the guys umpired, they did a great job, and they knew things right away.
Yeah.
So that means I'm gonna have to find a way to bring value to the next ball and play league. You know?
Right. How do you sell yourself now? Everyone's just as good.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't show up in flip flops next time. but yeah, I think the rules from a viewing perspective, the change in rules, and there's one that I forgot, the fact that a thrown ball that hits the wall is no longer a boundary, really makes for a very. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the larger wicket too. On the bowler's end,
Right.
the trash can.
The trash can.
Yeah.
You know, I miss the stumps because the stumps are a critical part of cricket. I mean, it's a beautiful aesthetic part of cricket.
It's in the logo.
But right, yeah. But I do like the larger target. I was saying, why not just? I was telling Jimmy, why don't you get a couple like bollard covers or something? You know, like you see outside of Walmart to keep people from driving in the door.
Mm-hmm.
You know, get a couple of them, or just one giant one with a bail on top.
Yeah, right. Just need to keep the bails. I mean, like, what is the reasoning for that? I guess to induce more weight or make it easier to throw at the can, because otherwise, if the back wall is not going to be giving you points if you throw it at it, why not just keep the smaller target?
More dramatic plays, I guess, right? It increases the chance to like get a run out.
And from different angles too. So obviously throwing from the side in cricket is very hard. You're aiming at one stump, and so this kind of made that a little bit bigger. So what I would rather see would be just one giant stump. You know, like one big red bollard cover or yellow bollard cover or something, with a golf ball balanced on the top.
So you just want a more aesthetically pleasing looking thing.
Yeah, that's it. But I do like the idea that it's bigger. I actually like that because you want to encourage the throwing, and I think that taking out the overthrows, I think it works out pretty well. That was the one thing that I think I was the most tentative about accepting, because I like the risk of it, and I think it actually encourages running more when you know that hey, if they miss, it's 4 runs. So
totally.
Well, I thought there was good balance because we saw a dramatic drop in running this tournament compared to Ball and Play 1, where I was talking to Brendan about this a couple days ago, maybe even last week, is like when you look at the average runs scored by a striker in Ball and Play 1 versus this, I think the drop was like 0.7 runs on average. Between Ball and Play 1 to this, and it is because you're starting to see, and I texted you about this, Brendan, so this may seem like you're hearing it twice, but you're starting to see a deeper understanding of the game by all parties involved, and you're coupling that with less aggressive running, more dot balls taken, dot balls not being seen as a bad thing, as Jimmy said or was it Jimmy or somebody else? Jack maybe said it in the final episode. Like dot balls no longer feel like fuck. They kind of feel like, all right, we survived one more.
Right.
And with that, you're seeing these lower economies from the bowlers and lower average runs scored from
lower scoring games in general.
And you'd think, I could just have a fallacy in my thought process, but the more you'd understand the game, the higher scoring you'd be as a striker.
I guess the game has always been like a limiting run game as opposed to like you're going to score a lot of runs. How can we like limit that, I guess? And they're figuring that out slowly.
But also, I'm not totally sold on the fact that the new rules are contributing to less running. When you look at
No, I don't think it's the rules. I think it's the players understanding how to play the game better.
Yeah, I gotta say the breakdowns saw the fewest dot balls of all the teams, and they had 3 guys who didn't see 10 dot balls.
Wow.
And you look at Dalton. Dalton faced 50 balls, and he only saw 8 dot balls. I think Dalton's playing the game perfectly. He's playing it super well, and I think that the breakdowns play the game well. They run. Jimmy is really good at he's done a great job of getting that team to run, and I think you see his strike rate batting is a little bit low, but I don't dislike him batting at the top with Dalton because he's good at getting at moving. He's good at getting Dalton on strike at that last ball. He understands that a batter side wide it has to be runs, and obviously if you miss wide away from the batter. Outside, you got to be careful. But he did a great job of stealing that little extra run and getting his partner on strike or off strike when it needed to happen.
Yeah.
And I think so there's the importance of not seeing dot balls. I think they also look how many boundaries they scored. Look how many runs that they scored. Not getting those dot balls. Dalton led the league in boundaries, fours, and he only saw 8 dot balls. And that's just
a
so he's playing the game
line
perfectly.
drive hitter too. You're fully right about that too. I think it was one of the first games that the breakdowns played, and they were just abusing the wides, and no one else was really doing the same thing as they did. I'm like, oh, this team looks a little different and understands these rules much better. And to your point too, like when Jimmy would be up there, and like even they'll run on like maybe a pop up that gets down. And it's smart because Jimmy seems to know when he's like, you know what, I don't have it right now. Let me make sure I can get Dalton back up here or anyone else back up here. He knows when to get someone else up when he doesn't have the hot hand or someone else doesn't have the hot hand. He's like, hey, let me get back up there because you're struggling right now. You know,
right.
They're good at figuring that out.
I tweeted this out in one of my like talking points after the games because I tweet out talking points now in place of us doing like daily episodes. And one of the ones that I found the most interesting was the one where at one point it just clicked with me like Jimmy's not even thinking about this strategy stuff. It's just fully second nature to him. He has such an understanding of ball and play. And it could be because he helped make the rules, but it also comes from like how many times did we see during this tournament alone something happen in a game between like Rippers and Story where Jimmy would be like, that's interesting. I'm going to incorporate that now.
Yeah,
and
or vice versa, where other teams would see what the breakdowns are doing, like, oh, we should do that too. Like, oh, they did the silly point thing. Let's also follow up.
The
with that.
silly point thing is the best thing to come out of this tournament. You must be so excited for that for Ball and Play too, Nate, because like the silly point thing very clearly started off as a joke, and then everybody collectively went, "Oh, it's working."
And I think it really started to work mostly because Joe's is a different level with that kind of thing. Not everyone's the best at it, and Joe's is such a big presence there too. And so goofy that I think he works at it in such a way no one else can.
Joe's was great with the goofy. What about like Lou playing silly point with how fast he is? How many times did we see a ball like get tipped over the back and Lou go from silly point to around behind the bowler to make the catch? It was incredible how explosive he was. I could see Luke doing something very similar because Luke is incredibly explosive as well. Like this silly point. And this is something I wanted to talk about too, I think is going to change ball and play in a way that nobody anticipated from like this point on. Because it kind of feels like with the current rule set, you can't afford to not have a silly point player for at least part of the game.
And it's a very John Boy Media thing to have too. That's another like great JM Warehouse wrinkle to a cricket sport.
Yeah, and it's not technically silly point. In a cricket, silly point would be directly next to the batter. It would be in line with the batter at like 90 degrees.
Oh, I didn't know this is a real thing.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
It is a silly position. Anytime you see the word silly in cricket, it means you're way too close, right? You're gonna,
so this is real terminology that they've been using. I didn't even realize.
It's real terminology, but point would be a little bit more square of the batter. On the offside, which is the side that they're on, but still, it's a great position, and I think look, the way the rules are written in this league, Jimmy is the perfect pitcher for this league for a lot of reasons. The high inside curveball is the murder pitch in this league.
Yeah, you can see it. It's visible even to like the audience. Like that, I would struggle with that pitch myself. I could just tell.
Yeah, and that is where you're going to induce those little bloops to the silly point fielder, because when you look at the angles, if you think about it like pool or something, when you look at the angles, when you're trying to hit that curve that's coming in at your shoulder, and if you're too far ahead of that, or if you edge it, when you're, if you're trying to hit it into the wall or something and you miss it, it's going right to the silly point every time.
Yeah.
And
if you do make contact, sometimes it'll just end up being a pop up to the left side if you're a righty, and that will get tangled up in the wall and the ceiling and makes it easy to catch.
Right, and because of the positioning of that fielder, who's actually more kind of like towards first base, I guess you would say, more in the covers in cricket terminology. Because of that position, you're also kind of a defensive fielder for when there's an really far outside pitch, like for how Lou likes to go to that, likes to hit the right corner of the wall, the right center field. area, if he's a little late on that, you can actually potentially whack that down out of the air, or it's a good position. It's like you said, it's a very good innovative position. Now, cricket fans will hate this aspect to a degree because not because of where the fielder is. They'll like that. It's because of the fact that
the distractions.
Yes, early on it was getting on early on the first couple of games. The fielders were actually yelling in the batters' faces, and I was like, that's got to change. The cricket guys are gonna get real mad about that.
Yeah.
But they stopped the yelling, and now it's just kind of like flailing your arms around,
Right.
like Sean Avery style or something.
Yeah.
But I actually kind of liked that. You need the silliness too. You need that.
Right. But I fully understand
then
like
how do
not
you-
being able to like scream something loud like right before
Yeah.
the pitch comes, because that's just like that's unfair.
But how do you
Yeah.
feel about like Joe's, what he was doing later on, where he was like running in step with the? That's
Like
okay.
he's about to tackle you.
No, that in cricket that's false fielding or fake
Okay.
fielding. Once because the batter you have this 360-degree area. They
Right.
actually made this a real rule. It used to be kind of like a unwritten rule, like a gentleman's agreement almost. But now it's a real rule. Once the bowler starts to run up, you can't change your position. So you kind of have to. You can walk in from where you're at. You can't intimidatingly,
Okay.
rush
So
into
there
the
may be
batter.
some things that need to be written down for future Silly Point warehouse stuff.
I don't mind it though. It's like it's
Okay.
a great little John Boy wrinkle.
Yeah.
I don't mind that at all. And like Joe's coming out like he's coming out on a corner shooter in basketball. Like
Yeah. It really is.
it's really funny to watch.
Yeah.
It's entertaining.
So let it be known: yelling out, running in.
Put
Put it in the book.
maybe some grunts, some noises.
I liked it.
Yeah.
So the only concern I have is the potential for interfering with the runner. But the running is so close. It's not, you don't have to run very far. And this is obviously the breakdowns did the best job running, because really it's all about making one decision and doing that decision immediately. That's what running is.
Right.
And we see like people that have struggled in the past have not been able to make a decision. They've been like, do it. Like if you're ever caught in between, that's when you get run out.
And they understand whose call it is. They understand whose call it is. If you're the striker, if you're the batter, anything that's ahead of you got the best view of. So if anything going towards that back wall behind the pitcher, that's your call.
Right.
If you're the non-striker, anything that goes behind the batter, that's your call. So
is it because of like the view that you have of the situation? Is that why it's that way?
Yes. Yeah. It's the view that you have of the situation. And obviously because also you're going to the danger end,
Right,
so
right.
you're going to the end where the ball is. So you're the one that's going to get out. So you have the better chance at assessing the risk for yourself. I think that the next kind of fielding innovation we'll see is when there is the wide, or not, when they do decide to run on that wide, I think the keeper needs to throw down to the pitcher's end automatically, because the non-striker's gonna be there. He's gonna make it.
Right.
You gotta take your chances with the fact that maybe like Rob, you remember how he like hesitated in running down to the other end, like that. You gotta count on the batter being the hesitant one.
Right, because the non-striker is looking at the entire thing going on, and they almost have like a lead, sort of. And they can get there pretty quickly. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
It makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not like if you're like the Rippers is the prime example. You can't afford to run out anymore, because with these new pitching rules and being able to throw curves and stuff, there's so many more pop-ups induced. You have to have that be your only source of giving up wickets, because it's going to happen often.
Agree. Yeah, that's really true. And in cricket, you'll see batters. Steve Smith, for example, one of the best batters in the world. He knows what his strengths are, and so he makes sure that there's like one or two ways he can't get out. Right? He knows that he tries to limit the amount of ways he's going to get out. And so he plays to his strength. He'll cover the stumps. He'll bat all the way in front of the stumps because he knows he's so good at balls bowled at his legs.
Okay.
So he knows that he can avoid that LBW, which means that you got hit and the ball hit your pads in front of the stumps, and it would have gone to the stumps to hit him. And you can get out that way. He knows he can't. He won't. His likelihood of getting out that way. Right. So with ball and play, that's the same kind of way you want to think. You want to think, all right, look, if we're getting out, popping it up in the air, that's one thing. But we have to make sure we're not getting run out, and we have to make sure we're not leaving balls for the Magic hole to swallow.
Absolutely, to swallow. That's a good way to put it.
So, if you don't mind, I want to go to talk about players a little more, specifically players who made their debut in ball and play. We're talking Lucas, Ryan, Dan, and Jack, Audio Jack. I don't know about you guys. I think the four of them fared decently well. I guess the only exception you could say, if you really wanted to be an asshole, you could say that like Ryan didn't do as well as the other three did.
Right.
Like Dan was crazy.
Sounds like you want to be an
Dan was
asshole.
weird. I'm gonna be an asshole, guys. Fuck Ryan.
Yeah, we're talking.
Like Ryan, you could see the hesitancy in him, and that was the thing that separated him from Lucas, Dan, and Jack.
Yeah.
The difference is with Dan, he was very much an all or nothing type of batter.
Yeah.
He was throwing himself on the ground in the field, and I loved that. Lucas showed up when he needed to.
Lucas has hit some great swings too.
He impressed me so much on strike. Lucas
anytime a new player would get up there and be able to like hit a boundary at all right away, it's like, oh, good for you, man. Like that. You look like if you got more reps, you'd probably be able to get into a groove.
Right.
Yeah, I think his swing is simple, and you need that from that close distance. Yes, of course, there's the speed limit and all, but that ball is squishy. You want to keep your swing pretty simple, and he does a good job of that. He didn't see nearly enough balls. I think the Rippers didn't realize that he was good until it was kind of too late for them.
Right.
But
which is crazy because his first game was something like he saw 3 balls in his first game, 2 hits for 10 runs. Like it was there, but it was too small of a sample size to rely on it. I understand, but I remember I wrote to him because I think on like our run scored per balls faced thing that I have, he was like a top 2 player, and then the second game he dropped considerably, and I was like, oh, I don't know, and then he put it together in the 4th and 5th games, really.
I think was it the 5th game where I think he faced 2 or 3 balls and hit 2 sixes.
Yeah,
it was like that was
the 3rd game he faced 1 ball and got 2 runs. So no.
So okay, the last one.
I thought it was maybe the 5th.
Let me see, run scored in the 5th game. It was 2 balls, 2 sixes right away.
Yeah, that was right. That's right because they. Yeah, exactly. Dan Rourke, we can't give him too much credit as a new player because he was in the very, very, very first ball and play league, the one that was kind of like a half season. But honestly, he's improved. He improved a lot from that. I wanted to say he improved a ton. I like his stance. It's simple. It's neutral. I think pitchers don't when you look at his stance. You don't know exactly immediately how to attack him.
Right.
And he did a good job of moving, of backing off the plate, I guess, where the strike zone when he needed to. In the final, I liked his chances versus Joe's in that second over. I was thinking, okay, I think Rourke is going to go off here, and he hit a couple of boundaries, but he eventually got out, and I just thought that was just bad luck on his on his part.
Yeah, even going from blitzball days, like his swing has looked like a fly swatter in the past. So the fact that it looks like a genuine, like a nice stroke now is like that's growth from a different sport to this sport even.
Yeah, I think he has a tendency to kind of go like the Plouffe route, which is kind of like don't really worry about the intricacies too much. Just go out there and back yourself and try to beat everybody by being better. But like Plouffe can do that because he's Plouffe.
Right.
But I do like Rourke in a chase. I like him in a chase, for the same reason I like Jake in a chase, and that's because I don't think either of them are gonna overthink it.
Yeah. And while we're on Rourke too, my favorite moment, probably comedy wise, in the entire tournament was the ad that they did for Rourke when he
Oh,
got the
he
call
thought he
to
got
Jake's
picked
team,
first
and he genuinely
overall.
thought he was like the second overall pick. And Jake walks away. He's like, "That was brutal." They're like, "What happened?" Like Rourke thought that was the call for like the first pick.
I was laughing. I was laughing out loud about that.
Oh my goodness.
That was
So
so
funny.
good. When he hung up, he's like he thought he was second overall, and
You
everybody
think it's
was
a bit
laughing.
at first, and then when they cut away to like that part, like, oh shit, like that makes sense for Dan Rourke's personality. He genuinely thinks like, oh man, like, I guess they think I'm really good. So,
Right.
he's great.
I like him. I like him.
I
I,
love
I, I
Rourke,
like
yeah.
him. I think he needs to get the intricacies of the game a little bit better. But I think
Yeah.
that he's got a lot of pluses.
He showed a lot of potential, but this could be a hot take here. I think
Uh-oh.
out of all the newbies, the guy who showed the most potential was Audio Jack. You take out the 2 games against the breakdowns from him, and he
Yeah.
is one of the best bowlers in the league by a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah,
It
that's one of the things
is
that the new
crazy.
guys haven't done besides him. Like we talked about Ryan a little bit, and like could hit a little bit here and there, but I think he's economy wise the second worst bowler
I mean,
behind Panic.
even if you look at his striking though, like yes, he had a lot of notoriety because he like
You're talking about Audio
got
Jack? No.
what was it? Yeah.
Okay.
He got a lot of notoriety because he had, I think it was like 3 wickets in a row, something crazy like that. He was very middle of the road if you look at just like average runs scored off of balls faced. He
Yeah.
was very middle of the road, not bad by any means. I think that all I could think of every time I watched one of these games is like his performance in here has to like bump him up in the drafts for future sports just because he did such a great job acclimating to something new. This is a guy who's, not there for content. He's there to be the audio guy,
Jack.
and he's just absolutely crushing it in this tournament for a first time.
Yeah, especially super valuable for like a team like the Story where he was kind of brought onto the team so Jake could use draft picks elsewhere during the course of the year. So he was supposed to be like a trade down for future picks, and he performed well enough to get these guys to the championship too. And for a new guy, to be serviceable at all, I think is a plus.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
you're 100% right.
You're totally right. He bowled more balls than anybody else. He did it at the 4th best economy. So I think I kept thinking if he adds a little movement to his bowling, to his pitching. But we saw him get so much bowling opportunities because they didn't really have an ace. The Story. Jake didn't get his golden overs very often, and so a lot fell on Jack's shoulders, on Audio Jack's shoulders, and I thought he was terrific. I mean, he had to carry the load for that team quite a bit. They're not in the final without him.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah, I think you're talking about Jake too. You're right about like Jake never fully found. I think he just had like too big of a curve. Maybe it was his problem. It was like very loopy and slow, and I think it would end up kind of middle a lot of times if I'm remembering correctly. But over, he definitely had some good outings. But I think like you're saying, it was so key in this entire tournament to have golden bowlers because you don't want to have to get to your third best.
I think
it's huge.
He was everybody showed promise, right? Lucas is going to be a batter, straight up. We saw that he had some defensive miscues that were like, we know you can probably fix this once you get a little more warehouse experience outside of floor ball.
Right.
Dan, same thing, a little bit better on defense. He got himself in front of the ball a little better. Audio Jack, full on bowler. I think he'll figure it out with the bat. Ryan, I think, has a lot of potential as well. I don't think he was being used right because Ryan's this big guy, right, Brendan? We met him, right?
Yeah.
He's a tall guy. And I think where he needed to be playing was back up against that back wall to jump and try and stop some of those higher fours.
Yeah.
Whereas they had him at
Wicket-keeping.
silly point at silly points or wicket keeper for most of the time.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that if they change that around, if he gets more looks at balls, he's going to be a lot better because he really got a handle on a couple of them.
Yeah, you saw like some really great strokes that looked very promising, but maybe like once he got a couple of boundaries, he got maybe a little too big, which would end up in pop-ups. And he definitely ran himself out a couple of times being on the run-out rippers, obviously. But that comes with practice.
Unbelievable.
He was the one guy I felt like just needs to play more. Like
Yes.
he just needs to play the game more. He needs to pitch this particular game more because he missed a lot.
Yeah.
But once he finds his rhythm, I think he'll be absolutely fine. And like you said, I like the idea of putting him on the wall with his length. I think he can make a bigger difference there. But yeah, the Rippers, Jack. I think a lot of their problems started with the fact that Jack didn't really give us what we're used to seeing.
Right.
And while he pitched well, his economy's always going to be good. I would back that every single time.
Right.
He only pitched 54 balls. And when you're a frontline guy like him, you have to get those golden overs, and we saw that trickle through. We saw that trickle throughout their team.
Definitely.
With problem, it put a lot on Rob, who didn't get the wickets, in the process, but it put a lot on Rob's shoulders, who was there, primarily for batting, if you ask me.
Yeah, that was.
Right.
I think he's picked third overall for his.
Well, they
for his
were
bat.
talking when they talked about it. They said it was for his bowling.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean,
That's what they would talk about on commentary, at least. And I was
sure.
watching like,
and
I'm
he ends
pretty sure
up winning
he's really good.
Offensive Player of the Year. Yeah.
He's good everywhere.
was great with the
well,
bat.
for the regular
Yeah,
season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought he was. Yeah, I think he is good. He's good across the board. I think that I might not put him on the wall so much though. I might probably
Right.
put him a little closer.
I might put him at wicket keeper because he's fast.
He's quick. Got
I
good
would do
hands,
that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'd put him at wicket keeper. You saw how many times the back wall was only scored on the ground. Nobody was flipping it over the keeper's head.
Right.
So you don't
Yeah,
need a tall person back there. You need
Yeah.
someone who can get low quickly. At least right now, I think when we see the cricketers come in, when you see those high middle straight balls, I think they're gonna
Cool.
get the
Because they have that
the
sort of
tough thing
skill
is with
that
the
baseball
round
players
bat.
don't.
Yeah, the
Right.
tough things with the round bat, but I mean, I know a lot of cricket coaches who will sit there with a baseball bat and they'll do slip fielding practice, and they'll have someone throw the ball at them, and they'll literally just edge it straight back to a bunch of fielders for practice, and they'll just
impressive.
That's
boom,
crazy.
boom, boom, and over and over and over again. And I'm like, some of these guys might
They should start
utilize that.
practicing yeah.
And I think what we'll see with the cricketers is taking advantage of the fact that wicketkeeper's leaving his spot after the ball's thrown. He's trying to get behind them. So I think you might see, okay, well, you're going to leave that spot. I'm putting it right where you just went,
Right.
where you just came from. I'm going to put it right where you just came from.
It's
Yeah.
going to be very
And then-
interesting how this changes, especially with people who have more control of the bat.
Yeah.
I think first and foremost, what you need in a wicket keeper is explosivity in movement. And I don't think it's that bad to say, like, the taller you are, the less you're going to have. You want those little guys like Rob, who
Like
has
a low center of gravity.
Less length in his limbs
To get
to
on the
move.
ground. Like Nate's saying, like you want to get on the ground as fast as you can.
Not even
Yeah.
that. I mean, like, look, I think the best value added from a wicketkeeper that we saw was Lou, who would go from sometimes silly point to running around entirely around the back to make a grab for a pop out wicket.
I mean, Luke too had a
Or-
lot of crazy. Wicket
that's what I was
catches,
gonna
too.
say.
Luke, I think Luke's the best keeper, and I think Lou is better at silly point than he is as a keeper.
Right.
But I think Luke was
only
is fantastic behind it.
He's reading every pitch really well too. He knows where it's
The
going
only
to go.
thing with Luke that will be fixed over time, granted, it will be fixed over time, is that
his
Luke
hair.
kept forgetting that the back wall counted as a boundary. And we saw it, I think, 3 times in the tournament where Luke just moseyed over to it, and then he was like,
oh,
wait,
shit.
what? Yeah.
Lou did it too, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe Lou had a time or two where he did that as well. I think
with any new rule, it's going to kind of happen a couple times.
Right.
I think every keeper did it once, or at least every team had a keeper that did it one time, and that was, but I think they'll remember next time with the cricketers. I think the cricketers will try to. It depends, It depends on how confident they are with the round bat. That's the
true,
tricky
too.
thing.
Yeah.
But if they're confident, that's almost automatic 4. I mean, if they're confident with it, that's almost going to be,
Yeah.
kind of like how Dalton peppers the back wall at
Yeah.
about chest high.
Which is impressive. Which is so
right
impressive
around
too. Like it looks so easy the way he does it, but I'm like, if that was me out there, I would be popping those up by trying to direct the ball like that. So it's very good for him for having that back control.
Yeah, that one game with Panic back there in the hot corner,
Yeah.
and Dalton was just like peppering it around him. I felt for Panic because they switched him. Jolly switched places with him, and I thought, good luck.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I don't think it
You know?
worked out still. I think there's some more balls that dropped in front of Jolly, maybe.
He
Yeah,
had so
it
much
was-
control over the bat, Dalton did.
And when he was hitting
It
them
was
hard,
so
he was
impressive.
flipping them hard, too, no matter what.
Yeah.
Peter, I guess
and I thought he had early on his formula seemed to be kind of bunt and push the ball to the offside,
right.
and then pull the ball to the back corner. And then the very last game, I'm thinking, okay, this is kind of his repertoire here. And then the very last game, he just hits it up the middle.
Let me just hit bombs
3 straight times.
Yeah.
He just hits it straight up the middle like 3 times, and I'm like, dude, he's Mr. 360 is what I'm calling him. That's
all,
a cricket
fields.
term for someone who can hit it everywhere. Yeah.
I mean, he's someone that could maybe adjust and learn from the cricketers next tournament and learn how to hit that back wall too behind him.
And honestly that they can learn from him too on how to utilize the round bat. You know? So I think that there's going to be some swapping of expertise. I think that'll be really neat to see.
Yeah,
for sure. Now, would you guys mind if I get a little bit rude for a second?
Oh my God, Peter!
Just a little bit rude.
We'll see.
We got to talk about the
Might cut it
Goodfellas.
out.
Got to talk about the Goodfellas. The only other team besides the Breakdown where everybody had played ball and play competitively before.
Okay.
Coming in dead last as a sign of, not as a sign of, as like essentially because almost everybody underperformed their average on this team. Right? Like you look at Jolly,
former champion,
known for hitting. Jolly's fantastic at hitting, right? 78 runs scored. That's fantastic. Awesome. His runs scored off of balls faced was under 2, which is incredibly disappointing. Lou had a disappointing tournament. We've seen it. We saw it the whole time. I think that Lou's disappointing tournament here means he's just going to have a double MVP performance in the next ball and play. Just knowing Lou and who he is, he's not going to let that happen again. Pennick, we talked about, where in ball and play, we thought he was a good bowler. We thought that that's where his strength lied. And he finished this one with the highest economy as a bowler, period. The only one you really can't say anything bad about is BBD because he had an amazing performance. BBD on both ends. BBD had a fantastic performance. But I think them coming in last place is more luck than anything else. Because, like, what are the chances that, you got a team of, like, looking on paper when this tournament started, I was like, Breakdown's Goodfellas, 2 best teams, easy.
Right.
And then coming in dead last.
They were 1A and 1B for me.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Very, very unlucky because you see they were, in my opinion, a little too okay with taking the dot ball.
Mm-hmm.
Just
They were.
a little.
Sure.
Yeah. I think Goodfellas, honestly, they also kind of took weirdly they took kind of a heel turn too. Like this was a really
It was the red jerseys. I don't know.
I didn't see that coming. I felt like Jolly was clearly trying to induce wides with his batting approach. You saw that yet the last game he kind of went back to just regular Jolly batting approach. But he was trying to induce wides. He did induce wides. I think he
I think more in the beginning, though. I mean, Peter talked about this a little bit over text, and like it seemed like it was working the first few games, and then especially like Jimmy, it didn't. It phased him a lot the first time Jimmy had seen it. And then he kind of
that's because Jimmy knew how to pitch to it. Because here's the thing: when you're a baseball batter, right? Someone throws the ball at your body. What do? Your first instinct is don't swing at that, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that takes out that your first in baseball. It's all about put the brakes on afterwards, right? Mm-hmm. You start and your eyes become the brakes. You go with your hands and your eyes are the brakes. What's happened is he's starting his stance out directly in front of the magic circle or the magic hole. And then he's drifting away. But as he's drifting away, if you throw that straight inside pitch to the inside half of the plate, it starts off at his body. And so his first instinct is, I don't swing at that. So he leaves that and he reads it as a wide, but it's 6-7 inches on the strike zone. You know,
Right.
so Jimmy started hitting that spot with the straight balls,
Right. It didn't take him
and
long to kind of figure out how to pitch to that, like you're saying.
yeah,
And no matter what, at the end of the day, it's going to be really difficult to hit a moving target while you're also moving. And that
that's
seems
right.
kind
No,
of
that's the
obvious
big
to
thing.
me.
It's very hard, and in cricket, that's also another thing. You have to have your head has to be still, and in baseball, your head has to be still. They always
Yeah.
talk about keep your head on the ball, and when you're drifting away, stepping, basically his entire body was stepping in the bucket, and so if you threw the inside straight ball, he was going to freeze, and if you threw an outside pitch that was high, in my opinion, or
Wasn't going to be able to reach
anywhere
it.
on that outside, he either wouldn't reach it or he'd hit it
Because
poorly or
he'd be
mistime
reaching
it.
to get it, and then, yeah, exactly. Wouldn't be timed
Right.
well.
Yeah.
He'd be
I think
overextended.
He should have left the wide inducing to somebody else. He should have left that to someone else on his team, and he should have focused on
Yeah.
too
doing what we
good.
see
And pick
Jolly
your
do.
battles, too. Like, when you're facing a guy that has so many golden bowlers, and it seems like he's hitting his targets, you know what? Let me just ditch this tactic right now because this guy
You're
is
talking about
dotting
the
me up.
semifinal, the
Yeah,
semifinal.
and just throughout the tournament too. If should be able to adjust when you see a guy is just like kind of got the strike zone on lockdown. You should adjust yourself. Like, you know what? Let me go back to basics and just hit this guy. Maybe if I play another game, this guy seems like he's a little wild. I'll go back to wicket inducing, maybe, or wide inducing.
Sure. Pick your moments, and
Yeah.
also what he needs to do is everybody knows everybody knows how he's going to approach that now. He didn't do anything to counter what you expect from him. So if you're going to start off in the middle like that, okay, well now maybe one or two times do a reverse sweep or something. Basically switch hit.
Yeah.
Or
otherwise, it just looks like your stance. It just looks like,
bunt
this is how you start, and nothing's going to change about it.
Yeah, so 2 games in, and maybe bunt a couple of times from that, but just keep them on their toes. Have a reason to make them adapt to you instead of, okay, well, this is, like you said, this is just the way he's standing. So I think and I'm sure he'll work on those wrinkles, but yeah, I mean, Pennick, disappointing. I think he needs to develop some arm side movement. He needs to get that pronation, because he releases the ball, he throws it high, kind of at the shoulder or in the middle, and he releases it from the inside of his hands, almost like he's
Like
throwing a football.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's gonna the ball just drifts right onto the barrel, and so I think he needs to get to pronation from the same arm slot, and that'll drift into the shoulder more. And that would be much harder. He'll get his economy down a ton.
Yeah, so almost everyone's a righty in this league too, so that would work out great.
Right, and the greatest sledge of all time in Ball and Play League, when Jake told him that if you come back and win the game, I'll eat my own dog.
Yeah, it got kind of close for a second for Jake having to cook up that. No, I think he said he had to eat him alive too, so he wouldn't have been able to cook the dog. So it had to have been
just incredible right there. And
Jake was great on commentary. I mean, you expect that obviously, but just so many had my wife laughing her ass off like all tournament long. Anything Jake did, what a way to. We've seen in past tournaments with him sometimes where like he's either focusing too hard on one or the other. Where like, all right, I need to play really well. Let me be quiet, and we don't like that because we love when Jake's Jake.
No,
this tournament he did a great job of like playing really well and also fully being himself and putting on a Jake performance.
He needs to be the captain, because Jake needs the spotlight. He needs people to be looking at him, and we love him for that reason. I mean, he's incredibly entertaining.
All the
Anybody
walk-ups
who's
to the coin toss cracked me up too. His little Michael Jackson steps.
He did a great job as a captain. Never before has a captain done so well, speaking completely incorrect nomenclature the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true.
It's true.
But yeah, I mean, like, so here, let me just say, look away from the stats for a second, Nate. You see somebody who, something with this, has a close to 20 economy as a bowler. How many overs are you anticipating to go look at to see what this average is based off of? Just give me a rough number.
20, close to 20. You're thinking, okay,
economy.
they pitched maybe a couple of overs, maybe.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So like you'd think in this tournament you had Zoe throw 1 over, Ryan threw 2.2 plus 5 balls, Lou also threw 2 plus 5 balls, Luke threw 2. those are the guys that I'm going to say if their
They didn't throw
economy's
that
high,
much.
fine. Like they
No big
had
deal.
two
They're the
bad
third
overs.
guy.
It's like the volatile
Yeah.
reliever stats for baseball.
6 overs is way too much to have an economy of close to 20, 19.83.
Like 2 full innings worth.
And not only that, you are the second pitcher on your team or second bowler.
You're being relied upon and getting lit up.
You are not someone who's coming in because the other two guys.
We didn't get a golden bowler. Let's get our third guy in there.
Exactly.
That's right. No, he had a rough. You're talking about Pennick, and he had a rough one. He had a really rough one. I think he'll bounce back. He just needs, like I said, he needs to put less predictable movement on the ball. He needs to come up with a change up pitch is what he needs to do. And something that breaks the tendency.
Right.
Something that moves in on the batter, I think, and he can do that from the arm slot he has, from the angle he has. He just has to change his wrist, and but his ball's too easy to read whether or not it's going to be a good ball or a bad ball.
What are the rules on arm angle in this league? Because it's obviously not straight over the top like cricket. Where does it stop? Like how far sidearm are you allowed to go?
I talked to Jimmy about this. He said that you can do whatever arm angle you want pretty much as long as you stick to that arm angle every time. So you can't change arm angles.
Is this per appearance? Can you change arm angles different if you come in?
I think maybe if you change it over. He said that they made them declare what arm angle they're going to use. So I'm guessing that means you can say, hey guys, I'm changing my arm angle this time.
Right.
I'm sure that maybe that part was cut out or something. But yeah,
what do you mean
I like that.
You mean like straight over the top or 3/4 when you say arm angle?
Right over the top,
anywhere.
3/4 of sidearm. Remember, Obus was bowling for sidearm, and it was causing all that arm side movement. And since he was the only lefty last year, it looked so dramatic to every batter. But really, he was doing it every single time from the same arm angle, and it was just his natural pronation, and it was just the natural way the ball was going to go out of his hand. And a lot of people complained about that. But yeah, in this league, he would have also been able to throw sliders, because if he keeps the same
That's what I'm
arm
thinking.
angle,
Like Pennick should get something like that. If he can't figure out a way, like you're saying, if he can't get the changeup grip going, maybe he could do something sidearm or 3/4 to get that sort of slider
where
action.
he can do both. Yeah. Jimmy's got a great 1-2 combo of a good straight ball and a good that sweeping. The rules of the league. The strike zone with the magic hole and everything works so well for Jimmy's style of pitching.
I mean, how many times did Jimmy hit the rim of the magic hole?
Yeah.
It felt like every I don't know, what would you call it in cricket? An at bat? Every at bat, at least one of the balls faced was clipping the inside of that rim.
You would call it batter's innings in cricket, but yeah, he was doing some serious rim work there.
Yes, he always does.
Jimmy just loves a good rim job. We did it. We got
we
there.
Did. We got it. That's what you were setting up for.
Brendan, hit the applause.
he's like,
can't believe I got the button right.
Jimmy, just pound that rim, man. Just hit that rim. Hit the rim, man.
Hit it again. Applause again.
There we go, Nate. No, yeah, it is true. It's great because those curveballs that do hit the rim, they're not a strike. They're not over the plate in baseball terms. It's coming close to your body the whole time until it's right in that middle section when it comes down.
Yeah, and that I think I went back and forth. I told Jimmy I think the strike zone needs to be lowered because you have that crease is well out in front. Yeah. You put the strike zone right on the supports, basically, so low that you can almost barely fit the ball between the strike zone and the ground.
So that when the ball's passing your body, it's still kind of like knee height, and it would hit the bottom of the strike zone.
Or if you want to create that high ball again, if you're facing Pennick or something, you don't want to be all the way back because he's not throwing the sweeping curve. He's kind of throwing a higher ball, and his higher balls are easier to face. You come all the way up to the front of the crease, and you recreate that high ball. So it gives the batter more ability to bat where he's more comfortable. And I think so if you like it in a baseball sweet spot, you stay back.
There's more strategy
if you want it high. Exactly. It brings in more different shots. And I think especially with the back wall in play, I think that would might open up some more
to
tactics.
hit the ball over that strike zone behind you.
Well, not necessarily that, but I think if you want to play the back wall on purpose, I think you're still going to come up to the front of the crease. If you're
Okay.
going to play like Dalton plays, where you can slap it around, you're going to come up to the front of the crease, and you're going to play that way. And now Dalton's even harder to get out because he's 3 feet closer to the other end.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So and also one of the cool things that happens in cricket is bowlers will bowl a guy behind their legs, and it'll turn off the ground and nip the stumps behind the batter's legs.
That's like when you're playing wiffle ball as a kid and you try and throw a curveball behind your friend that lands in a chair still.
Right, that's the thing. If someone does come up at the front of the crease to take it to create some advantage for themselves, well, now you can actually bowl it around their head. You can pitch it around the back of their head, a big curveball.
Yeah.
And I think that might be neat to see.
Yeah,
we saw that in the very first ball and play league with the ball was moving a lot more, and we saw one of the cricketers kind of duck.
Ball, right?
Yeah, it was a blitz ball. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, that's just one wrinkle they could or could not do. I mean, honestly, if they go right into ball and play league 2 with exactly the same setup we saw now,
still great.
It's gonna be awesome. Yeah.
Fantastic. It'll be fantastic. Jimmy, I was talking to Brendan about this. It might have been yesterday. I think if we're going straight into ball and play 2 with this rule set, Baggage has to be the favorites, because you saw Jimmy was so good bowling. Jake was incredible, and it's not being talked enough about, in my opinion. People are talking too much about like Rob and Luke. To like Jake was right up there with them,
especially like when he had his Jake game that got him into was that the semifinals that he had his little run, like that was a crazy performance.
I think it might have been. He's so good in the chase, which is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, no, we hadn't really seen like a chase comeback, I don't think, until that point, or like a difficult chase comeback.
You see,
and he was fantastic.
And then you see Luke is on that team as well, assuming it's the same team for Baggage. Right. Unless they're going to move Luke to Woogas, right? And then they have a pro.
Right.
Baggage is going to be scary.
We talked about how it depends on how they form these teams. I like getting to see the draft for Captain's League. That's one of my favorite parts about what they've done here with Captain's League.
Me too.
I wonder if this worked well enough for them where they will do drafts, or are they going to keep doing like forming these franchise teams how they've been doing it. Like, let's try and make this as even as possible, which I get that makes sense too. But I'm curious if Jimmy gets to draft again, he's going to draft players that he wants for these roles like he did in this league.
Right.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I mean, if he gets Aaron back again, Aaron Jones, like from last year, we'll get to see Aaron having played another, a season. He'll have a little bit more understanding of the gameplay, and Aaron's a good batter. And I think that Jake on that team, you bat him at 3. You don't open with him, because I think you open. I still think you open with Jimmy, and you want to start your game. This is a team that can score 30 runs in innings and win the game, because at least the breakdowns.
Yeah, they don't need a crazy high score.
They don't need a crazy high score, and they manage the game well. They know you don't want to get wickets early. It puts too much pressure on your batters.
If you get Jake in there in the third over when there's not as much pressure, like you're not worried about getting wicketed, he could just go up there and swing hard.
And I think Jimmy is really good he's got the understanding of the game that if you get 10 runs that first over and no wickets lost, that's good. Because now you've put 10 runs is kind of right about that line where the other team has to think, even if they got the golden over, do we bring in our number 2 because we didn't get a wicket, or do we ride this guy and risk the fact that they just saw 6 balls against him? And 10 runs and an over is lower than what you want. You want at least 12, 13. But it's right at that line where you put the question back on the other team tactically. Do you go with your number 2 and save your number 1 in case, for that third over?
Right.
Or do you just ride out the number 1 and risk him being smashed because someone's seen him 6 times already?
Right, because you could be like, oh, you know what? It's okay. We only scored 10 runs off this guy. He comes in again. Yeah. They start just like really beating him up, for sure. I think we might have seen that a couple times.
Absolutely.
Too.
Yeah, I think in that second over, if Dalton and Jimmy are in the middle in the second over, in this case, in this league, if they're in the middle in that second over, and then nobody's gotten out yet, and I think that's when you start to go nuts. That's when you start to swing. So the other team brings in their number two. They're a number two for a reason. They're not the number one. If they stay with the number one, you've just seen the number one. You've just seen him. You know what he can do, and now go for it. If you get out, no big deal. The next guy comes in. Luke is a great guy to have coming in after Jimmy. Another thing is, like, Jimmy understands the running better than everyone else. Dalton seems to understand it really, really well. And so you have the knowledge at the top of the order that can manage your game, and the pitching. Yeah, everything they did was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really was. But with that, you want to get into awards?
Let's get into these awards, baby. I think we did a good job breaking this whole thing down.
This was an amazing tournament, and I can't wait to see. Slap ball is next, I believe. I can't wait to see it.
It's gonna be awesome. That little tidbit we got so far looks so fun.
Yeah.
I think they do a great job of, like, putting on these shows of, like, when you watch it, it makes you want to play it. And I think that's probably a goal they go into these things with. It's like, let's make this be a good product to look at, but also make people want to go out and play.
Yeah. Striker of the tournament.
Okay. I know that voice. I know what button to press when you say that.
So, we're going to do one for striker, defensive player, and bowler of the tournament. And I guess, Brendan, you want to do it? You want to take striker?
Sure. I mean, feel free to disagree with me and tell me I'm dumb and wrong.
Yep.
It's interesting because we had awards come out for this league before the playoffs started, and it was all things Rob Sirocco. I don't know if it was just the way things shook out with his team that didn't let him shine enough, but I don't think he kept the role of best offensive player after everything was said and done. I'm looking at Peter's stats here, and it seems a little obvious to me, but it's also, I don't know, it could go a couple of ways. It's interesting because the guy I'm thinking about picking wasn't up there all that often, but he was drafted for his bats. I want to say Luke. Luke takes.
Look at it. Click on his balls faced, and you'll see exactly what the issue was. You'll see up in the top, so it'll be like the first one is the first game, the second one is the second game, third, fourth, fifth. Like, that was the problem. He didn't see enough. But say it again, because I think I talked over you.
Luke is my
keep going.
Best striker.
Luke who?
Luke O'Brien? Is there another Luke in this tournament?
Luke Ass O'Brien. Yes.
Luke. Oh, yeah.
Luke's Ass.
Luke's Ass.
Wins the award.
Man, I would love to watch him walk away. Lucas O'Brien. He's great at multiple facets of this game, but you knew even he didn't come up all that often, but when he did come up, he was a very steady force, and you knew you were going to get something good out of him. Crazy that you have a lot of times Jimmy and Dalton switching spots, and if one of them gets out, you have this force and Lucas coming right up. So,
yeah, I mean, Lucas was drafted. Nope, Lucas is a different player. Luke was drafted number 1 overall for a reason over Lou, which I think shocked a lot of people.
I thought it was crazy, and then that was proven wrong.
I mean, part of me was like, yeah, of course he picked Lucas over. God damn it. Luke over Lou. Of course he picked Luke over Lou because it's his brother and he wants to play with his brother.
Part of that too. It's like he's probably easier to coach because it is his brother.
No, that's why I was like, that's how I was rationalizing it to myself. And then it really showed that, Luke, like Nate, I can't remember if you said it on here or before we were doing this, like, he played his role perfectly. Absolutely perfectly. There was nothing that I think he could have done differently that would have taken him out of this. I mean, the stats that Brendan's talking about that we're looking at were he led the league in runs scored off of balls faced. He led the league in overall economy, which is runs scored off of balls faced plus wide runs scored.
Mm-hmm.
He had the highest percentage of boundaries hit per balls faced. He absolutely crushed it. When he got up, you knew that something good was happening. He scored under 10 runs one time in the second game when he scored 9 runs off of 4 balls faced.
And he wasn't one of these hitters, too, that was like, well, he's going to come up here and mash, but if he doesn't, it's going to be a pop out. He was the kind of guy that was going to stay on strike for the most part. He wasn't your all or nothing type of guy.
Right. And I think that Rob kind of suffered for a little bit from what I call Devin Harris syndrome, where if you don't know, Devin Harris was a basketball player for the Nets who got traded to the Nets for Jason Kidd when Jason Kidd forced his way out. And then the Nets had this season where they lost like 28 games in a row to start the season. It was like a record. They were the worst team of all time. And Devin Harris made it to the All-Star game and he shined because, he's so good. But it was really because the people around him weren't doing much. So he looked a lot better. Like Rob didn't look bad. Rob was the first one to cross the 100 runs scored. The only one to cross 100 runs scored in 4 games where he saw a ball. So Rob wasn't bad by any means. I just think that maybe a little more light was shined on him because he was the one keeping the Rippers alive.
Yeah.
That's a good point. He did have a lot of lifting to do on both sides of the ball. Rob did, and they relied on him so much with the bat and with the ball. But going back to Luke versus Lou, what's amazing to me is how both of them were used almost identically. They were both kind of the number 3 pitcher on their team. They only had to pitch a couple of times. They both look balls faced. Luke 36, Lou 37. I mean, Luke's jersey should be inside out based on those numbers right there.
I'm with you there, yeah.
and they fielded the same position, so it's so interesting how similar the two of them were used. But you can compare them, and Luke was in this tournament, he was fantastic.
Yeah, and I think the only reason why I give it to him as opposed to somebody else in the team maybe is because this other guy is potentially up for a different award. I want to make sure he shines for what he's best at later on. But Luke, I think this is a fitting one for him. He's a masher.
Oh my God, they're going to sweep it.
I think. Oh, they might.
They're going to sweep it.
All right, well, let's get to the next one.
Bowler of the tournament. Oh, you're going to have to come up with a third sound, Brendan.
I don't know what the third sound's going to be.
I'll take this one. We'll give Nate defensive player, because Nate definitely understands the nuances of defense a little bit better than we do. Bowler of the tournament. Oh, I wonder who it could be. It's Jimmy. It's Jimmy, and there's no question about it. Like, there's no one who comes close. Jimmy threw the second most amount of balls in the tournament behind Audio Jack, and it wasn't because he was cleaning up anybody else's messes.
Yeah.
He had 14 full overs and then half of another one, 19 wickets earned, 34 dot balls, which is insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. Only allowing 34 hits where, like, you see some guys who threw a lot less. Justin Pennick, I hate to just rag on him more, threw 6 overs and had the same amount of hits against him as Jimmy did. It was a masterful showing. He's an absolute freak on the mound when he bowls this. It is crazy how much soft contact he can induce, how many just straight up wickets he gets people going into, and how many... He's the only one who's ever had a maiden over in ball and play, right?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That alone, just the fact that he has that one stat qualifies him for the best bowler of the tournament, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. I watched the first game that he was pitching, now knowing the rules of being able to throw curveballs and stuff, and seeing where he was placing it, I'm like, oh, I see. He's got a real game plan. Where at the first few games of each team, I wasn't sure if all the pitchers necessarily did at the time, but Jimmy was going in there knowing, like, I am going to be a wicket inducer. And it's not even just a wicket inducer, also had a crazy low economy. So, like, those things don't always go hand in hand. So it's great that he had both.
Yeah, he had the best economy and he had the most wickets. So it's a no-brainer picking him. Yeah. But all the other things that you mentioned, the dot balls and the fact that he has a maiden over, that's ridiculous. Yeah, he was fantastic. And tactically, he understood how to maximize himself better than anybody else did either. So I think that has a lot to do with it. He was a tremendous captain as well.
Yeah.
So, he knew what his strengths were, what he was trying to do against each batter. He seemed to have a plan, and he set a very aggressive field, which you love to see in cricket. He was an attacking bowler, is what you would call it in cricket. Somebody who's going out there to get wickets.
Yeah.
But he did it at a great economy too, and he understood that he needed to take some golden overs too, and he just did a great job.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Defender of the tournament.
Let's see.
No,
No, that's another applause one.
use that one.
How many applause buttons do I have on here? How about this? Okay.
Uh-oh.
All right, there we go. I got to go with Dalton because I'll say this.
Sweet for breakdowns.
I think I got to go with Dalton, and the reason he's like the Andrew Jones of this team because of the aggressive field that they set. This doesn't work unless you're one wall defender at most on most balls, unless that person is able to stop those boundaries. You don't need him there so much to catch the ball. Yes, you need him there to catch the ball, and he did do that. And he hustled around, he hustled all over the place. But his ability to stop the boundaries and keep them turn fours into dot balls and build pressure when you've got the two of the best pitchers on the team, on your side, and you have a guy pinned at bat who's struggling, and now he fights one perfectly, hits a nice little hard ground ball right back up to Dalton, who swallows it. To me, that's how you build pressure, and Dalton was key to that team. You could do whatever you wanted as long as you knew he was back there.
Yeah. I mean, the way he played, like you said, that is huge to play the field the way that they did and only have one guy back there and it still be that effective. Like his efficiency as a defenseman on that back wall was equal to, if not greater than, the combination of like Jolly and Pennick back there. Like that's two guys that aren't as good as the one Dalton.
Right, and I think like what you were getting at earlier, Brendan, with your striker of the tournament is your other choice would have been Dalton, right?
Right. He's not far behind Luke at all, and how many he had 14 more balls faced.
40 more balls faced, yeah.
Yeah. So he had 400 more balls faced than Luke.
And he's right there. He's right behind
there.
him. He's almost got him.
He's right behind him in runs scored per balls faced. He's in the top 5 of overall economy.
Unreal.
Really,
he was
great.
incredible.
It was very, very good. Dalton, we were talking about this before the pod. We didn't give an overall MVP because we didn't want to double up. But if we were to, I think Dalton is a very clear-cut number 2 MVP. Like it's almost like MVP 1, the obvious one, God, and then MVP 2, a mortal man.
God's he's always MVP in every tournament, but we just
God's
all
always
assume
we're a very religious pod.
I don't know if people knew that about us.
But we also have some fun awards that we're going to give out, and I think
to Jesus and his disciples.
Nate, do you want a little more time to think about one, or do you want to start it off since you finished off the?
I don't want to start it off. You guys go, and I'll let my creative juices wake up.
Okay, I'll do it because Brendan started the last one. Brendan might know the answer to this one because he was involved in it. The Andre Iguodala Award.
The Andre Iguodala Award.
Who do you think?
First off, I have to Google that name.
He's a basketball player.
Okay.
It's a basketball pod today. Devin Harris, Andre Iguodala,
We love talking God, love talking ball.
Talking hoops.
Those are 2 things. It's really we're a hoop pod.
I'll give you a hint.
Me at all.
There's a famous quote. There's a famous quote from Max Kellerman about Andre Iguodala.
You're saying more names that I don't know.
All right. I'll just say the quote. Okay? Open shot. Fate of the universe on the line. Martians have the death beam pointed at Earth. You better hit it. I want BBD.
Okay, there you go. You did.
I like it.
You said this in our group chat on X with BBD.
Yeah. The reason why, when you need runs scored, BBD has had sneaky good running or striking stats this tournament. He had a 2.22 run scored off of balls faced, 2.44, which is second. His run scored for balls faced is fourth best in the league, second best if you include the wides. But where it really comes down to is the percentage of hits that BBD has that are boundaries. He leads the league with 82.35%. So if you need to rack your score up, if you just got a wicket and you need 20 more runs, the guy who's most likely to do it is BBD, because if he gets a piece of the ball, he's getting a 4 or a 6, and your total is going to be run up quick.
Yeah, and another guy that we talked about, Rob, before a little bit. BB's another guy that was stellar for his team and was doing a lot of stuff on both sides of the ball. He even said to us, he's like, you know what? If I saw how I was going to perform in this tournament, I wouldn't have thought our team would have fallen last place. But it's fair. I mean, if BBD's performing at an MVP level for your squad, and you have people like Lou and Jolly on your team, you would think like, well, this is a championship caliber team, which on paper it was. It's a short tournament.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah. By the way, the Andre Iguodala quote was about, they asked him, who do you want to shoot an open 3 to win the game more, Andre Iguodala or Steph Curry? And he picked Andre Iguodala.
Who looks like, by my Googling, looks like not a 3-point shooter. Okay.
So yeah,
I guess
BBD gets that.
I'll give my award to give Nate a little more time. This is like when you go to a restaurant and my sister is always like, they're all ready to order, but just do me last.
Do me last.
Which it actually always ends up being like, okay, that bought you another 20 seconds maybe.
Yeah. All right. Do you know now?
Here's my award. It is called the Tom Petty Award.
Oh, somebody broke our hearts. Lou.
That was a good guess, but no.
Fuck.
It is something about like a song of his.
Somebody's an American Girl.
Undercover Lady. I don't know if you're going to get
Tom Petty?
The Tom Petty Award.
Somebody's Free Fallen. Oh. I don't hate that. Jack.
Last Dance with Mary Jane.
Huh?
It's a deep cut. It's I'll give you the song. It's track 6, I think, on Into the Great Wide Open, All or Nothing.
Something from the Traveling Wilburys.
Nope, I just told you what it is.
Was that the name? Was that the name of the band?
Traveling Wilburys, yeah.
That was it, not Wilburys. That's not a real thing. What was it said? All or Nothing?
Give me one name guess.
I gave one main guess.
One name. Give me one name. The other ones were fake guesses.
Those were fake guesses. Nobody really cares about them. All or Nothing goes to Jolly Olive.
No, it goes to Jake Storiale. Jake Storiale is the kind of hitter that gives you... It looks here he has the most 6 balls hit with 9, and also has the most dot balls. So he is going to stand there and try and mash, and if he doesn't, he's going to stand there and wait in the box and just trying to find his swing.
Right.
Just just a funny little thing I noticed. Like, all right, he's either absolutely hitting home runs or just like waiting for his pitch, and I think that is valuable. It's you don't want everyone to hit like that, but it's good to have someone on your team that you can, like, if you need 6s, get Jake up there and let him cook.
Yeah, I like it.
That's it.
No,
Expert analysis from Nate Hayes. Thank you very much.
He's one of the few guys in the league that I would he might be my Iguodala as well. Like if you need to chase,
yeah,
at the end, and come back, he's the guy I want to bat, because look, Jake doesn't overthink things. He keeps it simple. Right. He loves the spotlight. This is a great combination right here, and he loves to hit bombs. Yeah. So I think, I like that.
Did that buy you enough time to have your own award?
Yes, and I got it. I made mine basketball too. I decided to go basketball. So I'm going with the
Bibles.
Oh yeah. Do you want to do like some sound or something to introduce my award?
What else do I have here? You know what's weird? I just keep using that one with you. I don't know what's going on.
That's the one for Nate again.
It's the one for me. All right. Well, here we go. The Rudy Gobert Award.
Perfect. Who's friends?
And the person who gets this award is kind of in the middle of everything, right? Rudy Gobert was great at setting screens. This particular person is great at having people make amazing catches around them, going around them to make an incredible catch. This is not only that, but obviously we know Gobert is going to be, right there, kind of protecting the rim and things like that. This goes to Joe's. And,
baby.
I think
I like it.
Yeah, because how we saw some highlight reel catches where Joe's was like, I ain't getting to that, and somebody else would like go around him to get to the ball, and just him kind of understanding his role on that team, and coming up big defensively. I felt like he was an asset to that team, both with the ball in hand and at that silly point position. So Joe's gets my Rudy Gobert award.
And that is an important thing too. Like I noticed that a couple times, and not to keep harping on Jolly, but like it keeps popping up in my brain, like these moments where it's important to know where your fielders are. There is that pop up where he ran in front of Pennick, and there was no guarantee that Pennick was going to get that one, but he like went in front of his fielder where it was coming to where he was already placed. And I guess sometimes it's like the third baseman cutting off the shortstop. Maybe you have an easier angle at it, but the way it looked to me is like if you just let the fielder field his position, it might have been easier for him to catch that ball. So it's important, like you're saying, to know where everyone is and know that it's not going to be beneficial for you to try and run out of your shoes to go grab something when someone else probably has a better beat on it.
Yeah. We know that the position he's playing, and also he's either pitching or he's playing silly point. And when he's playing silly point, he's coming in on someone like as if he's trying to defend a 3-point shooter. Basically, he runs in on them and breaks down. From that position, from kind of the flat-footedness of having just thrown a pitch, or the flat-footedness of having just crawled in on a batter like he does, he's not going to get to the to anything that's lateral to him. So he did a good job of not getting in the way, kind of. But really, I think that his presence on the team, he understood his defensive role, he understood his role on the team, and that's what Rudy Gobert is, a good role player that understands his job.
Beautiful. Well said. Good award. Good award.
Good awards. Brendan, hit the claps.
A lot of applause this episode.
Good awards. And now we're going for our draft.
What are the rules of the draft, Peter?
Snake draft.
Snake.
That's the rules.
Who goes first?
I go first.
Wow.
Because while you guys were talking, I put the three of our names into a random order generator on the internet.
Yeah, sure, random order. You put the two of our names in random order. You put yours right up top.
I put mine right up at the top. I wrote them down, and the names that I wrote first.
Weird. Peter came up first when I wrote it down.
Who would have thought? The order is going to be me, then Brendan, then Nate.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm in the worst position here.
Yeah, you are in the worst position, Brendan.
Okay.
And also, you get skipped for the second round.
That makes sense.
So
I'm going to only have 3 guys on my team.
But I'm going to get the first pick.
Okay, here we go.
I wonder who he's going to take. Zoe, maybe? Oh, maybe.
Oh,
maybe
interesting
Dan?
pick. Maybe another interesting
Just
one.
Shake things up. I'm gonna pick Jimmy first overall.
Nice. Okay.
He's the MVP. We had to do 3 separate awards, and none of them say MVP because we couldn't give 2 to Jimmy.
Yeah.
So Jimmy is pick number 1.
Okay. I'm struggling here between 2 other breakdowns, guys.
Yeah, I had a feeling the 3 guys that we mentioned before are going to be the top 3 picks.
I think I'm gonna lean one of the guys I think maybe had a slightly better overall tournament on both sides of the ball. I'm gonna go Dalton as my number 2 pick.
I had a feeling he's MVP too.
Yeah, we did say that before.
Mm-hmm. Now Nate gets the big pick here. This is the
pick.
Nate got the best draft position because he's definitely gonna win. Just because if you get 2 really good guys on your team, nobody else in this tournament is really like bad enough to be like, wow, loser.
Right. I think that's going to be the comments on this post. It's going to be wow, losers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like that one guy who commented, ew, what is this?
Our greatest YouTube comment. Ew, what the fuck did I find? It's fair.
Man,
It's a good comment.
I don't know. This is a tough one. This is a tough one. Oh man. So I'm gonna make my first one Lucas or Luke. I'm going with Luke.
Okay.
Luke's
I'm
ass.
not the only one.
Going with Luke there. I like him as the number 3 pitcher as well.
Yeah.
But that means I gotta take a pitcher with my next pitch. I think I gotta
Right.
take someone who pitches well. The big question for me is, this is harder than this is really hard,
Yeah.
guys. This is,
It is.
Hey, we got through all the easy picks already. Then now they're all gone.
and this is just based on this tournament.
Yes.
Yeah, just based on this tournament, so we can't take into effect Ball and Play 1.
You know what? I'm gonna reward the man for doing some good stuff with both bat and ball. I'm going with Joe's.
Okay.
Ooh.
That was where you'd take my pick right
That's
now.
where I had a feeling that's where you were going to go.
I don't want to.
He deserves it.
He absolutely deserves it.
I don't want to leave too many more bowlers out there because I don't have one yet.
Right.
And another guy is good with the bat too. He's going to service you pretty well. I'm going
I
to pick
know who you're
BBD.
taking. That was going to be my
Ooh,
next
nice
pick
one.
for
Yeah,
sure.
I need him.
Nice one. That's a good one, man. That's really good.
Dahl's not
I'm
giving me
going
any
to-
innings. So I'm gonna hit him.
Ooh, I really like what you guys left me.
Yeah, I know. I'm
I'm going to
thinking
take
right now.
Jake first.
Yeah, of
Because
course
Jake
you
is
are.
pretty good for
This is a-
bowling and batting.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to take Rob Sirach.
Yeah. So I knew. I
This
didn't
is-
think he'd be left over for me.
That's a good team
This-
so far.
That's a great team so far. That's so
Okay.
good.
I mean, this leaves me with sort of like a Matt Carpenter Yankee situation here, where I'm hoping for him to come out of a down year. I'm going to go with Lou. Lou Dabs is gonna.
Lou Dabs.
He's gonna rake for me. He's gonna
Brendan, we're
stop
not
hitting wickets.
doing a fantasy draft. We're drafting based off of their performances in ball and play.
This performance just happened, so
That's true.
his
You got me.
his value is low. I could take him at a low value, and he'll.
You
next-
want
next tournament
somebody
he's
who's
be great.
going to torpedo your team morale
Absolutely.
by being on a team of their own?
Yes, I love the anger. I love
That's
someone's
crazy.
playing with fire.
Oh, this is a tricky one. This is so tricky. Who am I taking here? I want a guy who can field well and bat well right now at this particular spot. That's what but I got 2 choices to make. I'm doubling up. So this is my team right now. This
your
will be my
team.
team. Well, look, man, I'm gonna have to take Jolly in here
Okay.
Yeah.
Big bat
and
Jolly.
as the batter. And you know what? I'm doubling down on some real good pitching here,
Don't
and
do this.
I'm gonna go with I'm going with Jack.
Fuck.
Audio jack.
Audio jack or
No,
regular Jack?
no,
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
taking Jack.
Wow.
Okay,
That's
good.
so
Okay,
crazy.
captain.
that's what I'm taking
Taking
audio
captain
jack.
Jack.
Crazy that my brain went to, oh, we're in the 4th round of a draft. Jack has surely been taken already.
Right.
That's
No,
crazy.
right, exactly. Like this
What a
was
great pick.
crazy season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm rounding up my draft with audio jack things to have some extra bowling on the team,
Ooh, good pick, Brendy.
so that I have BBD and Jack as my bowlers, and if need be, Lou can come in.
So, final pick. It has to be Lucas.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, not a
It
bad
has
not a
to
bad
be
guy off the
Lucas
bench.
Diversa. Not even off the bench. He could really hit the ball well, and I'm pretty sure he was pretty good defensively as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And
he
that's
was
really
fine.
good. So,
I like this
into
spot.
last.
so do
It's
you
the
want to go
bottom.
around and Peter? You want to start? I guess like say where your guys are in the field.
My guys are currently probably in their houses.
Okay, mine are probably also in their houses.
And
Maybe
Nate?
one of them is outside.
You guys don't want to talk about the batting order or anything, Pete. Pete, here's the thing. Look, Lucas on his team didn't bat enough, and he didn't
Right.
bowl at all.
Right.
And on this team that you have here, I see him not batting enough and not bowling.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
I got
he's
him for
kind of like
defense. It was for defense, really, which isn't
right.
ideal. But I do have Jake, who's a great defender, Rob, who's a great defender. It was really I just needed somebody else, and of the people left, he had the most upside from this tournament.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think my team's lacking some batting
Plus, Jimmy likes to
expertise,
run,
but
and Jimmy likes to
yeah,
run a lot,
I
and
like
that could
that.
get Lucas some more balls faced.
Yeah.
I think you're winning this league, Pete. I think that you're
Yeah.
beating
I
the
never had a
two of us.
chance. I never had a chance.
Brendan never had a chance. He was picking second. So for our next, Brendan, just try to remember for our next like recap
I'll
thing,
pick second every time.
you're gonna pick second. No, for our next one, I'll keep you off of second.
Yeah. This is gonna be like
You want to just
the
always
them
give the
watching
guest.
Guts where Joe's always drafted last for some reason.
Do you want to just like always give the guest third,
Sure.
or we'll let them pick?
Yeah, so we'll give
I
them the
just-
best
I feel
spot
like
and still
third is
see
the
them
best
lose the draft.
Yeah, exactly. And then we could gloat.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I just want to quickly like lay out where my guys are going to be. I'm going to start with
Go
BBD
for
in the
it.
mound,
Yep.
and have Lou. I like having him and Lou as a great wicket keeper too. Like he's also underrated there because just he didn't
Yeah.
have the best tournament, but you forget how good he was back there. And then Dalton on the back wall.
Non-statistically,
Yeah,
best
maybe
tournament.
maybe I guess Dalton obviously plays that back wall super well, and you can. I don't know. Do you need two guys back there with Dalton back there? I'll just put like left and right field out there with Audio Jack and be in right field.
Yeah, I mean, what else would you do? Sit him on the bench?
Yeah, I was thinking about putting him on the bench. 'Cause
We got this
Dalton's
covered.
So good. He can stand right
we'll play
behind.
with three in the field.
He'll stand underneath the garbage can.
Ah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Pete, you got a team right there that just falls into place perfectly. You got Jimmy on the bump. You got Jake on the back wall. Rob probably at wicketkeeper, and Lucas
well, I might put
there.
Lucas on the back wall because he has the height,
Oh right,
and then
yeah, that's
Jake
true.
would play like the corner
Or silly point.
or silly
You-
point
you-
if need be.
Yeah, with Jimmy on the rubber, I would definitely have a silly point, and I
Yeah.
think Jake would do good at that because he's the most silly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
true.
It's in the
Yeah.
name.
That's true. And then I think for batting, I'd start Jimmy Rob with Jimmy at strike first.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I
Uh-huh.
think I would do.
Yeah,
Yeah. I guess, yeah.
yeah.
I
And then
started to-
who would be your? Rob would be your. Sorry, Jake would be your 3.
Jake would be my 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's similar to me. Like where
Yeah.
my big bopper would be third coming off the bench and Lou. I would start with BBD and Dalton up there. And
Yeah,
Lou coming
that's
third off the
nice.
bench. Yeah. Keep the wicket guy
Yeah,
on the bench first.
I like that. Put Dalton on strike for sure to start to
Mm-hmm.
maximize. And I would. Luke would have to open with for my batting.
Mhm.
Yep.
I'd go Luke and Jolly to open,
Mhm.
and then poor Jack. I'm just hoping that I don't get to Jack until the third over there.
Yeah. Poor Jack. I think he's hoping the same
He'll
thing.
bounce back. He'll bounce
Oh,
back
yeah,
though.
no, yeah.
He'll bounce back for sure.
Yeah, without
He just
doubt.
needs reps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Good job.
thanks for listening to this epised.
Yeah.
Thanks for helping
Thanks
us
for
out,
helping,
Nate.
Nate. No, this was a lot of fun. I was so excited to talk about this tournament for 2 weeks. I think it was a fun exercise for us to do this differently too. Like, hey, let's watch 10 episodes in 2 weeks and then try and get all of our thoughts into like an hour and a half or so here. I think you're the perfect person
So
to help us
fun.
navigate this crazy ship.
Oh, it's so much fun, man. This was such a great. I just had so much fun watching this season. I was expecting a lot, but it surprised me pleasantly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So much fun.
absolutely.
Any closing thoughts before we wrap up into plugs and stuff?
No, I don't. I just really don't want to fuck Nate over again by forgetting to ask him to plug things. I think what happened last time was we forgot to ask you to plug things, and then in the next episode we did, I think was with Paxton, and I was like, "Here's Nate's stuff, by the way."
Oh, really?
if you want to like
Forgot.
listen.
It's fine.
So what do you got to plug, Nate?
You just follow me on Twitter. I'm CrickFanUSA. Follow me on Instagram, also CrickFanUSA, or Big Innings _ on Instagram. That's our podcast we do with Emerging Cricket. I also write for Emerging Cricket, but we have a podcast with Emerging Cricket called Big Innings, and what we do is we talk about really nerdy American cricket stuff. We focus on the American cricket scene, all the tournaments that happen in the USA, Major League Cricket, Minor League Cricket. That's our major focus, but we'll talk about a little bit of everything as long as it has to do with cricket. So yeah, if you're into cricket and you know, you want to learn more about it or learn more about American cricket, give me a follow.
Yeah,
Hell
definitely
yeah.
give him a follow. It's very interesting, the
Yeah,
stuff
absolutely.
that he posts and retweets and all that, or re-X's.
What do they
Brendan,
call it now? Reshare,
I just say
retruth.
I just keep saying tweet
repost.
and retweet.
I
And
think
stuff.
it's repost now.
Retruth. Yeah,
Brendan.
we do a lot of retruthing, the two of us.
Retruth. Retruth.
Brendan, what should
We
people
need-
be drinking?
Drink subtlety. It's a drink made by me. I'm actually drinking it out of a subtlety glass right now. Look at this. Ooh, look at that. Beautiful.
Whoa, that could be yours for $50.
$50. The one I drank out of with my backsplash on it. I think it's a great product. You'd probably think the same thing if you ordered it. You can order it online at thesubtlety.com. Get $2 off with code HoppyBoys. That is my other podcast where we talk about beer. We've had a couple of warehouse guests on before, in Drew Davis and BBD, and Peter. Peter's also kind of like a warehouse guy, right?
Yeah, my episodes are the worst.
Yeah. We'll eventually have Nate on here, and we can drink 10 ciders and shit our pants in a diaper. It'll be a lot of fun. So go listen to all that stuff and more. We're going to be covering Blitzball Battle 4 pretty soon.
On the Hoppy Boys?
Yeah, fuck you, Peter. Me and Brian are doing coverage of BB4 on there. No, me and you are going to be doing BB4 like so soon. It's this month.
It's going to be
I
very
can't-
soon,
I can't
yeah.
wait.
I will plug my brother, Matthew Del Rey. He's a good boy. I love him very much. If you see him, give him a hug and a kiss. God knows he needs it. Placia Stars. Malt Madness is coming up on the Hoppy Boys.
Coming up, you'll hear some commercials for that probably in the
Can you
coming
please
months.
put commercials on this when it gets closer?
I will.
The
We'll be doing it.
Brendan does like movie promotion commercials. For last year,
Very dramatic.
when I was listening to the Hoppy Boys before Malt Madness, and I heard a movie trailer, I was losing my mind. I thought it was so funny.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
You'll all be aware of it when it's coming.
Other than that, Brendan, ask me the question.
You got anything else you want to talk about?
Nope.
Bye-bye.
Bye.